David signed his employment contract on a Tuesday. He read the benefits package, the performance review schedule, and the termination clause, assuming they were standard frameworks designed to secure his career. He was completely wrong. If you misunderstand who those documents actually protect, you will lose decades of leverage. Every major pillar of modern corporate life, at-will firing protocols, employer-sponsored healthcare networks, intellectual property waivers, mandatory arbitration agreements, and structured performance reviews, was expressly engineered to solve a severe institutional liability, not an individual employee problem. Most dedicated professionals spend their entire lives blindly believing the corporate employment system is a mutually beneficial arrangement where hard work guarantees financial security. It absolutely is not. The system is a precisely calibrated legal architecture built incrementally over several decades by corporate attorneys and lawmakers. Its sole objective is to strictly minimize institutional risk, systematically capture your maximum intellectual value, and make your sudden departure as legally complicated and financially punishing as humanly possible. Your perceived career security is merely a convenient byproduct of their aggressive liability management. Seeing this reality requires zero paranoia. It requires analyzing the hidden blueprint behind these policies and applying one specific analytical framework to every single interaction. Start with the at-will employment doctrine. David assumed his contract offered him freedom. The cultural myth of the 2-week notice protocol implies a balanced relationship. It sounds like mutual freedom. In practice, it is entirely asymmetric. When you leave, the company loses a single headcount. When they terminate you, you lose your entire livelihood. The open door goes both ways, but the consequences of walking through it do not. What institutional risk does this neutralize? The risk of wrongful termination lawsuits. By establishing at-will status, the organization secures the ultimate flexibility to eliminate any employee at any moment without legal justification. Your loyalty will not protect you from a restructuring spreadsheet. The practical countermove is simple. Build your emergency fund and your professional network entirely outside of your company's ecosystem. But keeping the exit door completely open creates a new problem for the company: retention. So they build a second mechanism to lock it. Look at how your compensation is structured. David's employer-sponsored health coverage, his 4-year vesting schedules, and his PTO resets felt like rewards for his hard work. Those benefits are not corporate generosity. They are structural architecture. They are designed to ensure that leaving your job is always financially painful. Unvested stock options and deferred compensation artificially inflate the cost of your departure. What institutional risk does this neutralize? The cost of constant turnover. The golden handcuffs were never an accident. They are the exact feature keeping you at a desk you outgrew 3 years ago. The countermove is to separate your financial calculation from your emotional one. Stop anchoring your career decisions to unvested money. Once they have financially secured your physical presence, they move to secure the rights to everything your brain produces. Consider the intellectual property assignment clause. David optimized a workflow that saved his department millions of dollars. Because of the IP clause he signed on day one, he received exactly 0% of that equity. You provide the intellectual capital, they capture the permanent equity. The system is perfectly calibrated to ensure you walk away with a fixed salary, while the institution walks away with the patent. What institutional risk does this neutralize? The threat of an employee owning the value they actually create. Your countermove is to build your personal brand outside their proprietary systems. Your internal projects are not your portfolio. If you ever decide to challenge this extraction, you will discover the fourth mechanism, a private legal system designed specifically for you. Buried on page 7 of David's onboarding documents was a mandatory arbitration agreement. You didn't negotiate this private legal form. It was hidden in the paperwork you signed just to get the job. It stripped away his right to a public court. When disputes happen, you are forced into a closed-door tribunal where the arbitrator is paid by the company you are fighting. You play the game once. The institution plays it every week. The asymmetry is the point. What institutional risk does this neutralize? Public accountability and class action lawsuits. Always maintain copies of your performance records and crucial emails on a personal drive. But companies don't wait for a legal dispute. Their defense file every single day, disguised as your professional development. When David received a needs improvement rating, he thought it was a roadmap to get back on track. That document is not a roadmap for your growth. It is an evidentiary file for their legal defense. Performance improvement plans and annual reviews are systematic documentation tools. You sit in the review meeting believing you are being evaluated. The Human Resources Department knows you are simply being documented. What institutional risk does this neutralize? The liability of firing you without documented cause. Your countermove is to stop relying on your manager's feedback. Maintain your own shadow review file of project deliveries and praises. The reason this entire architecture remains invisible to most professionals is because it has been perfectly dressed up as corporate culture. Your health insurance feels like a benefit. Your performance review feels like mentorship. Your employment contract feels like a standard agreement because the word standard implies it is fair. But the system was never neutral. It operates exactly as it was designed to, protecting the entity that funded its creation. David eventually stopped looking at his corporate job as a reciprocal relationship and started viewing it as a strict transaction. He stopped giving away uncompensated loyalty to an architecture built to extract it. He used his salary to fund his own external leverage. The corporate employment system is not broken, and it is not inherently evil. It is just a perfectly calibrated machine. And the moment you stop asking what the machine can do for you and start asking what institutional risk you are neutralizing for them, is the moment you finally stop being played by it.